back into IBM. And I should mention that this was completely separate from the IBM Apple partnership. This was really about us making an IT strategic decision to say, we think the Mac is a great vehicle for reinforcing the kind of culture changes that we want to have here at IBM. And so when we went out to Apple, we observed them supporting a large number of people and devices with an order of magnitude fewer people than you would see in a traditional PC environment. And so how are they doing that? And what can we learn from that? And what we saw was this kind of three-pronged strategy of give people the right devices, right? Don't chase the cheapest device that you can find, but give people equipment that's fit for purpose, in this case Macs and iOS devices. Manage those assets in a modern way, right? I don't have a corporate image for my phone. Why do I need a corporate image for my laptop? Can I manage my laptop the way I manage a mobile device? Things like zero-touch cloud-based provisioning, user profiles, app stores. Can I take my laptop, throw it in the river, go to a retail store, buy a new one, log in with my IBM credentials, and have everything magically reappear on it? That's the modern management of that device. And then the third is drive self-sufficiency in the environment, right? If we do the first two things correctly, such that there are just fewer problems coming into the environment, we can then afford to staff a help desk that's totally focused on a great customer experience, right? And this model says, we don't really care if it's company-owned, personally owned, supported application, not supported application. If you call us for help, they're going to help you get productive again. And this model also says that even if the fastest way to close a ticket might be to reset a password, that they'll take 10 minutes and walk you through how to do it yourself so that if the problem happens again, you don't have to call back, or if the person sitting next to you has this issue, you can help each other out. Very different model than what we had been doing up until that point, where we were measuring things like number of tickets, speed to closure, which kind of drives the customer experience like, hi, how can I help you? We don't support that. Is there anything else I can help you with? I'm going to close the ticket. And then you get a report that says 99% of all calls met the SLA. People in the company say, that's the worst function in the business. Don't call them. So we said, we think this is something we can bring back to IBM and try to replicate. But you know, this idea of not having a corporate image, you know, basically for the last 15 years, or as long as I've been working, that's the way you deploy machines in an enterprise is you get a machine set up and configured exactly the way you need it to be for your enterprise, and then, you know, if it's in a Windows environment, you sysprep it or slipstream it out and clone the hard drives and so on. In a traditional PC environment, when we buy Windows PCs, we buy them, we ship them somewhere, there's an entire team dedicated to creating and keeping current those Windows images. They then preload that software onto those laptops. We ship those laptops somewhere else to be warehoused and stored until employees need them, where they sit and depreciate. And then by the time we get it out to an employee, it's always out of date and needs updates. All of that is activity that we don't have to do in our Mac program because we're buying the exact same Macs that you would buy in a retail store, and we can just drop ship them to employees when they need them. So we said, these are the things that we will need to measure to validate what we think we are able to achieve in terms of needing fewer people, not requiring a lot of third-party software, all of the logistics efficiencies and labor that we don't need to do, we think, in the Mac space that we currently have to do in the Windows PC space. And that then became the basis of a business case that we brought forward that said, there'll be some new investment, it is a new program, and for us, that means we want to be sure that the goal here is not a cost takeout program. The goal here is to deliver an employee choice program and to at least aspire to have the greatest Mac program in the world. And that means we want to buy the best software in the world and hire the best people in the world. And then there would be this mix of hard and soft benefits. The hard benefits I kind of went through. The soft benefits are very important if you care about being able to attract and retain the best talent in the IT industry. And when we thought of this as a culture program and less as an IT program, that then motivated us to say, we really need to look at all of the touch points that an employee has to deal with in the course of working at IBM. Everything from new hire onboarding or getting a new laptop, setting that laptop up, being productive with that device while you work at IBM, and then eventually disposing of it and getting a new one. And when we broke it up that way, we sort of came away with 10 pillars of things that we needed to get after and improve to create a kind of end-to-end overhauled IT experience and really materially demonstrate to our population that we were thinking differently about the way we deliver IT services and really taking a user-centric approach. The other thing that was important for the team was to say, we all have to have kind of clarity and purpose. What does success look like? How will we know if we've achieved our goal? And we said if the process for getting a new Mac at IBM was that you just get a shrink-wrapped Mac at your desk with a post-it note on it with a URL to our intranet, and that was the sum total of instructions that you needed to get that machine up and running, that would be success. And then that would be very different than what we had in the Windows PC space up until that time. You know, you would think it would be a happy occasion when you get the email that says you're now due for a new laptop. That's not always how that news is received at IBM. And so we thought this is a good goal to strive for. And then if we can do that, because we're trying to kind of have this consumerized experience around it, we did some work with our procurement team to say, when a person chooses a Mac, can we send them an email when we ship the Mac to them, send them another email when it arrives, and then send them another email a few days later reminding them that we're here to help them get that Mac up and running. And so that's what we launched on June 1st of last year. We spent about 6 months doing the engineering work to be able to not have an image for the Mac and to do all of the things that you would traditionally do in the context of a corporate image at time of enrollment in Jamf. Right, so password policy, disk encryption, certificates, VPN client, productivity software, and so on. All of those things were happening at time of enrollment, and this worked, and we were thrilled, and we didn't have an image, but we got some feedback from people that said I didn't know how long it was going to take, and reboot in the middle to turn on FileVault. And so the team did some work to further improve that experience, and delivered this as the next iteration of that, which had a progress bar, it cycled through the tabs, sort of displayed what was happening, and reminding people that Macs are now officially supported within IBM as we go to get support. Well, the team's been working over the past year to further refine that process and to enable some new functionality as well. So it integrated an asset management registration component, which previously was a sort of separate activity that happened post-enrollment. Being able to identify IBMers that do certain kinds of work that require us to do other things, whether that's supporting a regulated industry, handling sensitive information, supporting the US federal government and otherwise. And so they have now released the new version of our enrollment app for Jamf. And what we have now is basically two paths. There's a standard setup, which is good enough for most people. And then there's a custom install, which allows you to check and uncheck kind of which packages and things that you want installed at the time of enrollment. So I do have a time-accelerated short video of what that actually looks like. And let me show that to you. So here we are turning on a Mac for the first time. Select your country, keyboard type, join a Wi-Fi network. It finds the IBM configuration because this is a DEP Mac. Authenticate with your IBM credentials. Enable location services. Create a local user account. MacBuddy continues as expected. Drops you out to the desktop, quickly loads up the enrollment application. It asks you to register this Mac and let us know if you're doing any kind of specialized work here. Do you handle any kind of government data, banking data, health data, or otherwise? Registers the Mac into our asset management system, which is needed then to drive the PKI that issues the certificates for Wi-Fi and VPN. And now it begins to go through the enrollment process. When it hits disk encryption, it's going to reboot because we want to make sure that we're not running unencrypted disks until someone might reboot, which on a Mac could be quite a long time. Log back in and it will resume the enrollment process. And you can see here it's going through all the things I described, the VPN profile, the Cisco VPN client, installing CrashPlan, Java, our Lotus Notes client, IBM SameTime for instant messaging, and our version of Firefox that we use within IBM, and then you're done. And so this Mac has now been provisioned to safely connect to IBM. It has everything that you need. You don't have to be at IBM to do this. This is available over the public internet. If this were not a DEP enrolled Mac, you'd have been able to do the exact same process by going to https.setupmymac.ibm.com. And by the way, if you had chosen the custom install, you would have seen this screen allowing you to check and uncheck which packages you want installed at time of enrollment. We do heavily rely on the self-service app as the one and only place where we make software available to our Mac users. That's really helped resolve a lot of the where do I find this software type of questions. And we're able to entitle people to different packages based on their LDAP groups. Some things that might be of interest to you. As I said, you know, our Mac program is very much about driving culture change in IBM and being the kind of enterprise where people want to work. And so we take significant care to make sure that we're not imposing IT policies that kind of unravel the Mac experience. And to do that, every one of our Mac users is a local administrator. We don't bind the machine stack or directory. These are local user accounts. We rely on the native security features of Mac OS. That's things like SIP, Gatekeeper, XProtect, and FileVault instead of third-party alternatives. We use MDM to provision machine-based certificates, so that means there are no passwords for things like VPN or Wi-Fi. And more recently, I mentioned in the beginning, we have 72,000 Linux users, a lot of whom are doing certain kinds of sensitive work. And the good news for those users is that the Mac has now been approved for even that type of work within IBM. So Mac is really an available choice for anybody at IBM at this point. So this is the system that we use when you're due for a new laptop within IBM. You get an email saying it's time, and click here and let us know what kind of a machine you'd like to have next. Our team doesn't own that system, but we did volunteer to help them improve that a little bit in terms of look and feel. And one of the things we put in there was this link to say, click here if the Mac is right for you, right? We don't want to be in the middle of deciding which laptop an employee should have. That's not a lot of value add for the employee. We want people to be able to make that choice for themselves. And we also made a decision that an application readiness assessment of our 3,000 applications that are our enterprise application portfolio in IBM would just be a waste of time. You know, and those kind of readiness assessments, in my view, are a great excuse to sort of do nothing. So if the outcome you're looking for is we have problems and can't move forward, do a big application readiness assessment. But rather than get completely drained by the people that were manufacturing excuses that we couldn't have a Mac program, we decided to just get velocity with the people that wanted Macs. And as we encountered applications that might be problematic, we would add them to this list. And so, you know, we got 3,000 applications within IBM, but most people are using, you know, a few dozen. And so, I would also say there was some anxiety within IBM of people who wanted Mac that said, I can't risk taking a Mac and being stuck with it for 3 or 4 years if the thing that I use as my primary application 90% of the time doesn't work on a Mac. And so we put in a 60-day no penalty exchange policy that said, if you ask us for a Mac and it turns out your whole job is looking for fraud in the expense reporting system and you can't use the Mac, send it back to us, there's no charge to your department, and we'll get you a PC instead. That did a lot to sort of put people at ease, and people that wanted Macs were more inclined to choose one. And by the way, less than 1% of people have actually ever taken this up on this offer. Actually, a lot less than 1%. In terms of what do we do about the applications that don't work on the Mac, a couple of vectors for that. You know, ideally, those tend to be the same things that make it difficult to work on a mobile device